What's going on, folks? This is JWC Livestream. No poetry today. Today, instead, we're going to do a book read. I read from the intro of Nidhogg Chronicles, Crusade of Shadows, which is a book that I have on Amazon. I'm going to now read chapter 0 from this book, Nidhogg Chronicles. Nidhogg Chronicles is it requires a 0 chapter because this is the lowest point in the main character's life. So we read Abominable Flashback beforehand, and we get an idea as to why that might be. But now this is how she feels, how Nidhogg feels. So again, this is from Nidhogg Chronicles. This is chapter 0 called The Great Change. Nidhogg woke to tears streaming down her pale face, staining the vat fluid which enveloped her lengthy limbs and surging around the panic that gripped every fiber of her being. The Great Controller sent in thralls to help Nidhogg back off, running the sucking nozzles up and down until she was virtually dry. She frowned down at the diminutive creatures, despising their limitations, recoiling from them as she would a mangy animal. Wearing a stormy scowl, she dressed in a flowing silver robe and proceeded out of the sustenance and sanitary cabin, making a very unwelcoming sight for those who roamed the hallways. Nidhogg knew her own limitations and hated them as she would an affliction. Phase 5, Stage 6 hybrids were almost there, but not there yet, still lacking what was required for the Great Change to function as planned. She wore black contacts over her large oval eyes, which were pale as milk behind their ultra UV protection, framed as they were by pin-straight raven black hair, which swayed subtly as she walked. Nidhogg's grim face seemed lost in daydreams of malice and cruelty. Her hissing telepathic voice rushed in and out of collective skulls like a storm wind whistling through dead bones. James. She could not get the human out of her thoughts, no matter how or what she tried. He was gone, wandering in blind darkness forever, beyond retrieval, impossible to forget. Was anyone worthy of such a fate? Nidhogg's heart was broken, seething with upset, and at the moment very much outside the possibility of consolation. Nidhogg walked into the central hub for the Change Project, seeing that they already extracted Mindy. This human had been serving the program since she was 7 years old, but lately she had been counter-indoctrinated against all she had been conditioned to believe. It was slow at first, but subtly over the years, Mindy's thoughts had gone over to insubordination and fear. Nidhogg could relate. Nevertheless, she despised Mindy and all of her typical human gripes and concerns. Mindy wore a billowy shirt and shorts, which were likely bed clothing, her big idiot features contorted by fatigue and upset at being woken for yet another consecutive night of field work. Hello, Nidhogg. I wish we could do this another night. I'm so exhausted, and it's like the 3rd or 4th night in a row. My kids have a big day tomorrow, and Nidhogg raised a thin-figured hand to cut off her hissing balefully at the human as though she were a pet who had just defecated on the floor. Hello, Mindy. Do you think I care about what you have to do? Believe me when I say that nothing could be further from concern. Not to me and not to my lustrous overlords in the collective below. But you will obey, or I will let the crawler have his way with you. He has been neglected terribly and could use a bit of exercise. Is that what you want to happen? Look of primal terror washed over Mindy's features, seeming to turn her half as pale as Nidhogg herself, though not nearly as demented in the face. Give it a few more years, and then we might see such motivation change her. But it would not be long for Mindy the way she was acting. It was only instinct that got her through the difficult moments, with thoughts spilling away into realms of near madness from time to time. There was a pounding on the hatch leading to the other chamber, the place where the crawler was kept. Mindy's eyes darted there and would not be parted from that sealed portal. Nidhogg's telepathy brought Mindy back from the edge of suicidal compulsion. Doesn't have to be this way tonight. We might be able to work together and just get this over with. If only you would stop carrying on like this. Mindy looked over to Nidhogg and screamed, as if to blow out her own voice, shrieking in a fitful panic, leading to pure hysteria. Nidhogg cocked her head like a predatory bird, ready to wrench its prey to death. Fine, stupid, have it your way then. Nidhogg's face went dark with malice. The pain of solitude and unrequited love had again been recruited to see this conditioning properly applied. She raised a slim hand, and as if by magic, waves of agony fell upon Mindy, sending her to the floor in a writhing mass of cold sweat and involuntary convulsions. A spasm racked the human's body, twisting the bowels and slamming the limbs, bringing the screaming up another octave into a traumatic range. The crawler slammed at the hatch, with Nidhogg not missing a beat, sending telepathic suggestions of it being introduced while Mindy rolled around helplessly before it. Nidhogg thought of whipping the human with a scourge of golden wire, wishing she could rip it up from the wall panel herself. Anything to get this omnivorous surface grazer up on her feet and into action. The more she fought, the longer it would take, and how Nidhogg wished to be alone. Why did it always have to be someone who resisted? Was it because Nidhogg resisted? Did she get these assignments as a result of her own rebellious nature? If so, it made no matter, because without James by her side, nothing really mattered. As this emotion burned like ice in her chest, an outcry in the collective provoked a response from the Gray controller, a sign that someone's patience was being tested. Enough of this, Nidhogg. You will make her soil herself again, and we don't have time for that. This is critical for us, critical to get this done before the day's side returns to this part of the surface. We must harvest that womb and implant to tank 983. It has already been put off for too long. Nidhogg thought of the Gray controller in his black single suit, his tiny hands circling deftly over instrument panels, fingering keystrokes for their eventual flyover of Mindy's future class of hybrids. A woman named Phoebe had been mind-wiped and set up as a living tank for years, nearing her end of viable usage for such a purpose. The effects of the neural engagement worked especially well on the specimen, so the program used her often. Nidhogg shook her head and hissed through her nubby half-formed teeth, feeling the loathing for this program's endless defilement rise up into her throat. She fought from screaming herself, but instead released Mindy from the torturous grip. Clean this up, you devolved slime. I must refresh myself. Prepare Mindy for the field. I will return when we reach our destination. More thralls came to help Mindy up and get her situated. Nidhogg vacated the central hub and made for the observation deck. This was how it always had been, night after night, being forced to work with this kind of trash. So many beings she hated, so many minds she was forced to endure in order to have one sweet moment with nature's true gift. Nothing. She got nothing out of the deal. Just some piece of faithless meat named James, who was blind to all her worth. Nidhogg was some kind of monster to him, like a nightmare become flesh and blood. She didn't just repulse him or upset him, she outright terrified him, and he could not keep from throwing it in her freakish face. That's how it was in the five-pointed hologram, just another kind of torment before incarnational cycles ever got a hold of your astral fire. In the real world, everything bled and wept and died when it was supposed to. You could only ever be free in dreams, a no place where accountability was vapor and anything was possible. But what good was an illusory no place where truth does not exist? The collective did not care what was true from what was falsity, and that's why they hated Nidhogg, because she did. She could not let anything go, especially if it had to do with humanity and its accursed place under the sun. The yellow sun of their beloved star system, and the black sun which shined beneath the earth in a great halo of spectral infrared. It was this other light, this dark light, which allowed the collective to weave its subtle warping of pineal fire, the very essence of inner twilight necessary to convince narrow-minded humans that they were experiencing otherness. It was the perfect scam, using the circadian cycles to deceive them. They were too dogmatic and nearsighted to even know what was going on half the time. This was why she needed to kill this Mindy or see her acceptably lost in the field. Nothing so lost in the struggle could be worth saving. Nidhogg shut her eyes against the mounting fury and with a jerk of her limbs exited the observation deck in order to rejoin the field crew. The local telepathy informed her of the proximity warning for imminent arrival. Nidhogg locked her eyes with Mindy as soon as she entered the chamber, sending waves of cautionary vibrations meant to probe the human's fragile mind. Mindy had no resistance left in her after the last clash, so she bowed in the proper slavish way with eyes cast to the floor. Nidhogg smiled her winter smile and gestured for the crew to make way for the disembarking ramp. A sign of feral insistence played over face and limbs as she issued the departure orders. The gray controller made her words into mandate, flooding the local thought space with the collective's hideous urgency. The great change was everything to them and the reason for all that Nidhogg and Mindy did together over the long years. The great change. Establish a hybridized organism which supports the collective's telepathy and may pass for human stock on the surface. Infiltrate human civilization to prepare for the next phase of terrestrial evolution. Mark genetic lines with interbreeding to facilitate an eventual interplanetary migration or exchange program in order to diversify stock. Allow for the collective's growing obsession of humanity to be transferred over a wider range of beings with the ability to support telepathy, neural engagement, and ultimate thought control in order to perfect a race of suborn drones released from any notion of independent thought. Nidhogg beheld the ramp being lowered, feeling her body be enveloped by the astral fire from the craft, as well as its technological oversight. Mindy walked with a quartet of warbling grays who shared thoughts of previous sessions of experimentation on Mindy years ago when she was more youthful. They passed her anatomy back and forth, feeling its mouth-watering reactions be taken by the overall collective, and so the deepest minds from down below. This was how it always was, how it always would be, until they brought the great change about it would never end, and how Nidhogg wished for an end to it all. She knew if she kept wishing, she would get what she wanted, but the price for such might be too steep for her to fully pay. Could she throw what was left of her sanity away, each moment subjected to the collective and their merciless, smothering mindfulness drove Nidhogg further to the edge. She hated the great change. She hated everything. Most of all, she hated James for discarding her soul. So what if she wasn't a human being? She was living flesh and blood, needing, aching with lovelorn urges, and filled with the human's desire for love. Out into the uncaring world of mankind she went, waiting for the day that her stony heart would finally die. So that was Nidhogg Chronicles, Chapter 0. Anytime you see this background, it's a Nidhogg read. We're going to do those whenever there are scheduling conflicts. Thanks so much for listening. Check out Nidhogg Chronicles on Amazon. That's where the book is sold if you like what you hear. Go to joeswritersclub.com. Go to sign up on joeswriters.club, our forums. Check out our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Most importantly, head over to our YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe. And thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care. Stay